Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's Twin Island Media Live for this beautiful Thursday, the 14th day of May, 2026. And my name is Daren Matthew Ward. Very happy to be in your company. Extremely grateful to be in your company. Let me turn this off. Yeah, there we are. You probably heard the little jingle that we have to introduce the program in the background. Apologies for that. But I'm so very happy that you're able to join us tonight. We have some very engaging, informative, and an important discussion that's going to be taking place tonight. We're going to be focusing on two powerful areas that shape our future. Education, of course. You heard the famous song from Sparrow, children go to school and learn well, because, if you don't learn well and you don't apply yourself in school, you'll be better off, dead, I think is his lyric. And so that's very important. And the environment, because we have to exist in a space, and it's important for that space to be a healthy space. So we're focusing on those two issues. And first, we're going to be hearing from our first guest, Ms. Shelley Galloway. She's an education officer within the Ministry of Education for Knowledge Management. She'll be sharing with us some insights into an ongoing research symposium, why it matters and what it means for students, educators, and the wider community, and how research continues to play a vital role in national development. Then we're going to turn our attention to one of the pressing environmental issues that affect us all right here at home in Antigua Barbuda and throughout the Caribbean, and I dare say parts of North America as well, the sargassum seaweed that's impacting the Antiguan coastline. To help us better understand the scale of the issue, the science behind it, and what it means for our marine spaces, tourism, and daily life. And we're going to be joined by marine ecologist Rulio Camacho. All right, and later on in the program, time permitting, so we're going to try and wrap things up within an hour, give or take. We want to touch a few issues. There are a couple of things that I have observed locally, regionally, and certainly on the international scene with President Donald Trump visiting Beijing to see his good old friend Xi Jinping. So we'll talk a little bit about all of that and all the global implications for us all. Just want to say a good night to all of our partners, all those individuals who would have, and corporate entities that would have provided us with levels of support over the last, well, certainly over Twin Island Media's existence. And of course, we'll give you a proper due as the program unfolds. Just want to say we're going to focus now on the research symposium, and we are joined firstly by Shelley Galloway. As I mentioned earlier, she's the education officer within the Ministry of Education. She's responsible for knowledge management. That's primarily the implementation of the ministry's policies relating to data management and ICT. Ms. Shelley Galloway, thank you so much for joining us tonight. An unusual time.
Good evening. Thank you for having me to share this very important initiative by the Ministry of Education, and good evening to your audiences.
Sure. Just want to let folks know that we are available not only on Facebook, but we are also available on YouTube. So for those of you who once you subscribe to us on YouTube, you get a notification to say, hey, we're live, and you're able to join the conversation. So just want to let our listeners and viewers know. So thanks a lot, Ms. Galloway. Just tell us, how many years now has the ministry, take us back to Genesis. How did this research symposium start, and how many years have you been doing it?
Okay, so yes, thank you for that. So the research symposium was the brainchild of Mr. Clay Brown, our Director of Education. In 2019, he had a desire to strengthen the culture of research in Antigua and Barbuda, and he wanted to create a platform for local research so it could be shared, discussed, and used for data-driven decision-making. And so he would have interacted with Dr. Antonio, Dr. Desiree Antonio, officer and chair at that of the committee, the planning committee at that time. However, we know that in 2020, COVID happened. The intent was to have a face-to-face forum, but COVID happened, interrupted, but that did not deter us in any way. It just put a little stumbling block, but we surmounted that, and it uncovered that virtual means to engage our audience. So in 2021, a virtual event was heard, the virtual version, and we're
Mhm.
still continuing with that virtual version. So
Mhm.
we have been, this is the sixth edition of the Research Symposium, and it's really taking on momentum. It's
Mhm.
really evolving,
Mhm.
because in 2024, initially we just had, researchers, adult researchers, person in academia, um,
Bright people.
presenting the research, yes. But then Mrs. Camacho,
Mhm.
Mrs. Kadian Camacho, she introduced the concept of the Student Researcher of the Year. And you see why we would go to the young, because we want to create that culture of research. And the culture doesn't start at the end, we have to plant that seed. And so this year, we had Miss Kelsey Cochrane from the Mary Pickett, the Pickett's Primary School, and she's now
Mhm.
at the Antigua Girls High School. She presented her research in the opening, at the opening ceremony held on the 12th.
Mhm. Okay. All right. Oh, I thought you were going to continue. But yes, tell us, how does
Okay.
this research symposium align with the nation's educational priorities? Why is it so important? Why is research important? Very basic question.
Well, research is very important because we
Mm.
want to make decisions that are based on empirical data. So we want to ensure that our decisions are sound. And we also want to create that um, outlet for persons who are, our local researchers to publish their findings. And it ties in greatly with our theme: meaningful research, plan it, execute it, share it, and use it. So we want to transform society. It must be something that is transformational and impact the lives of the citizens of Antigua and Barbuda. So we see that research is very important, and it also helps us to create our local repository where we have our local pool of professional knowledge. Yes, we are referring to, in the past, we would have to refer to research from outside of the Caribbean and the
Mhm.
larger countries, Jamaica, Trinidad. But then, we want research that is contextualized, research that is meaningful to our environment and can transform, Antigua and Barbuda. So
Yeah.
hence why we saw that it's important and the need to nurture and continue.
Understood. Completely understood. Looking back, um, are there any particular research topics that were of particular interest to you and that, may have made a difference practically in everyday Antigua and Barbudan life? I know that might be a tricky question, but tell me.
Well, it's so much to go through, because we have gone through 74 presentations, and this year we
Ah,
had 10.
okay.
So
Fair
to
enough. Fair
to
enough.
pick, this is the
To
sixth
pick one.
edition, so to pick one, but I can pick something that is fresh in
Mhm.
my mind. And we had, as I said, we had our first virtual
Mhm.
symposium last evening. And
Right.
one that really impacted me was a presentation by a group of students from the School of Pharmacy. And they looked at the whole idea of
This.
medication, how this proper disposal of
Right.
pharmaceutical.
Right.
And the thing that really popped was that there is a legislation that instructs users of pharmaceuticals, that require users to
Mhm.
write to the director of pharmaceutical services when they're going to dispose of these
Oh.
pharmaceuticals. That was an
Oh.
eye opener,
Yes.
because we have expired.
Just throw it away.
Yes, we just throw it away, just flush it down the toilet
Mhm.
or just throw it
Mhm.
in the garbage. And just how they share the need for that knowledge, that awareness,
Right.
because of the impact it can have on controlling diseases, and
Mhm.
especially with antibiotics, and how that could the antibiotics could and forgive me for not using the medical term, morph, and you have strains that are hard to control, and just a
Right.
simple thing
Mhm.
like that. So I would say that stood out to me
Mhm.
greatly last evening.
I think the term would be resistant. Basically,
Yes,
microbes in the in the system or in the environment that have become increasingly resistant to antibiotics. In other words, it makes
yes, yes,
antibiotics ineffective.
yes,
Um,
yes.
yeah. Well, yeah. If we have a doctor listening, they can make a comment under the live and set us straight.
Yes,
But we know we're talking about. We're just not doctors, so we're not saying it in the
yes.
right way. So the research symposium, it's aligning with the ministry's priorities of trying to develop a research culture in the country. Are you satisfied with the level of support that you have gotten from the community, whether it be government? Well, you're part of government, but you know what I mean. And the community generally. I mean, is there satisfaction in that regard?
There is a level of satisfaction, but it doesn't mean that we sit on our laurels. We always go for the best. And
Of course.
so, yes, we keep, persisting. And so, yes, we are seeing that things are changing, and with change is not overnight, it's over time, and we are committed to seeing that transformation take place. So yes, there's movement, there's growth,
Mhm.
and as Nelson Mandela says, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step, and we keep putting our feet one foot in front of the other. And yes, we're here. This is the sixth edition, and there will
Right.
be many more editions.
I can well imagine. So just run through some of the topics that were touched last night, and I believe you have. I would have shared with the technical director the topics for the next session that will be hosted by Kadeem Joseph. But you could just let our viewers and listeners know what topics were addressed last night, and is it possible for them to obtain copies of this research, especially if it's a research area that they may have particular interest in.
Okay, thank you for that. So last night was a fantastic evening. It was very, informative and engaging. And the
Right.
topics that were discussed, we had design. Okay, and this is just, I'm just going to put it in layman's term because we have some very technical terms here, done by
Sure.
Risa Nelson. Is the conversion of sargassum weed as a
Mhm.
non-conventional biofuel
Mhm.
feedstock. So she
Right.
looked at the design of thermophilic anaerobic cladstridium co-culture for the
Mhm.
conversion. It sounds, intimidating, but I must say she did a fantastic job. She
Yes, she
broke it
did.
down so that the layman could understand. And her passion came through the research.
Yes.
It was very
Mhm.
engaging. And we
I agree.
also, yes, had Dr. Andre Bovell. He presented on time interval to diagnosis and disease stage in female breast and cervical cancers in Antigua and Barbuda. And that was
Mhm.
a retrospective study.
He,
And
he
that,
he pronounced it. I can interrupt you. He pronounced it like the Big Island people pronounce it. He said cervical cancer. My Jamaican and
okay.
Guyanese friends, they say cervical cancer. I don't know. We say
Okay.
cervical, they say cervical. Whatever.
Well, potato, once the message is,
Yeah, yeah,
is
yeah.
captured, yes.
Indeed.
So that too, further research, further
Mhm.
exploration into that. And that topic too was riveting, as it was,
Yeah.
very relevant to what is happening within our Twin Island state. And also we had, as I said, how adult beneficiaries of the medical benefit scheme dispose of their unused medication.
Mhm.
And so that too, that topic was presented by Mr. Nivram Brown, Shanila Dean, and Jedediah Christian. And they really, it was an eye opener. It really
Right.
impacted, and I would say it landed with the audience as well. So
Mm.
all the topics would have landed, and the final presenter was Miss Elysia Zakers, and she presented on the challenges in implementing CSEP music education and curriculum. So, that whole aspect of making music more relevant and more industry applicable. Yes, the theory and yes, the theory is important, but how do you align it and make it fit so that our students can see the transition into industry, the relationship with it in industry. And I don't want to leave out our presenters from the opening ceremony. Kelsey Cochrane, Miss Kelsey Cochrane, and she was a Student Researcher of the Year, and her topic was My Family. And we also had Mrs. Shawya Hurst. She looked at instructional time and its influence on mathematics achievement, a comparative study of JTMI schools and high-performing primary schools.
What's JTMI?
I'm so sorry.
You're not sure?
Yes, I'm not sure. Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
All right. No problem. No problem. No pressure. All right. So next week, no, I think that's the flyer we had up on the screen.
Yes.
So next week we can talk, and next week I believe is hosted by Kadeem. Who hosted last night? Sorry, reminder.
Sharifa George, Miss Sharifa George, and she was phenomenal. She was phenomenal. She carried the atmosphere. There wasn't any drop in the enthusiasm. She really created and sustained that engagement.
Right. So next week we have Kadeem Joseph, Sir Kadeem Joseph. What are the topics? Run through those topics with us quickly.
So on the 20th, next week, Wednesday evening from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., we have Seymour Robin and Donita James exploring the perceptions of medical benefit scheme pharmacists on medication counseling in Antigua and Barbuda. We also have Tanisha McKenzie James, effects of leadership styles on employee performance at Organization A in Antigua Barbuda, and also Tavia Hunt, Miss Tavia Hunt, Dance for Life, and Kaida Nicholas, factors contributing to attrition at the Ministry of Education in Antigua and Barbuda. So we have 4 presenters next week, and they too will be just as engaging and informative.
So how will, the outcomes of these research pieces that are going to be presented or have been presented, they're obviously generating a body of work. Is there a repository? Is there a place online that individuals can go and look and see what research areas have been covered before, to see, if there's any way they could use it for, one reason or the other?
Presently, there isn't a repository, but that is a work in progress. There has been talk among the committee how we could have these research placed in a repository that can be accessed by the public. So that is in the making. However, what we would normally do, we would produce a research public booklet, but that would be the research from prior years. So the research from 2025, those would be published in a research booklet. And yes, but as I said, we're working on having that online repository where it can be accessed, because we see it's necessary when we have other researchers doing work. We don't want the duplication of efforts. We want, information and data that would have been gleaned to be utilized, because yes, we want our local information. Yes.
Completely understand. All right. So the repository is coming. Of course, a website might work, so make it easy as opposed to a physical space where individuals can just simply go and download the information in PDF form or whatever.
Yes.
All right. Well, this sounds all very exciting. So the next installment, which will be next week, Wednesday?
Wednesday, yes.
Yeah?
Yes, correct.
All right. Just run through the details and how individuals can sign up for being a part of this symposium.
Okay, so to join us, you can find the link to access the symposium on the EBU, the Ministry of Education Facebook page, the Education Broadcasting Unit. Flyers have been distributed within us, or within our networks,
Sure.
and you are able to access the link. And I know Twin Island Media would assist us in disseminating this information. So the link is on the flyer, so you
Yes.
can access it via or those
They can
particular.
actually see the flyer on
Yes.
the screen at the moment.
Screen,
So
yes,
there we have it.
excellent. Yes,
All
so
right.
it can be accessed to that medium as well.
All right.
And so
Or they
we
could
have
simply go on Facebook and search for Ministry of Education Broadcasting Unit.
Excellent. Yes.
Great. All right. So any other, is there anything that we missed that you would like to just share with us before we wrap tonight?
Well, I just want to say thank you to Twin Island Media for having us, for, being a part of that collaborative process in ensuring that the word gets out and that persons are able to participate in this very important initiative. We want to say thanks also to our moderators, our sincere appreciation. They have been with us for quite a while, Ms. Sharifa George and Mr. Kadim Joseph. They're dynamic and engaging, and over the past 3 years that they have been helping to promote the event. So we want to, give them a shout out, and we also want to say, give our appreciation to Antigua and Barbuda, the Union of Teachers, for assisting in publishing the booklets, and we're inviting. Yes,
Okay.
they're collaborating with us to make sure the booklets are produced, and that for now. Yes.
Who's your main constituent? When I say main constituent, I mean not just the academics and those who are interested in research. And of course, we are developing a research culture. We have a university here now, landed, fourth landed campus, etc., etc.
Yes.
But in terms of, are you hoping that professionals of different kinds, politicians, business leaders, who are you hoping will take advantage of this resource that's being accumulated?
Well, we're the general public, it's it is a variety of topics that we have been looking at. Healthcare, we have been looking at education, culture, and even the environment, because we as I said, we had that research from Miss Nelson as it relates to the Sargassum. So it's a cross section of the public that we see can benefit from the research. Yes, and in order to participate, just to add, in order to participate in future iterations of the research, we invite persons who are, the research must be local. So it must be suited for the Antiguan context. So it must be a research pertaining to the Antigua and Barbudan context. And it can be at any stage of the research, whether it's undergrad, it's a research in progress. Once it's, relevant to our context, persons are invited to submit their abstracts. So, just encourage persons to come out.
Yeah. And I'll add journalists or media practitioners.
Yes.
Who are always asking about data, and people say, we don't have any data, we don't have any information about this, that, or the other. I hear that too often. So I'm encouraged by this, and I wish to encourage you and your team at the Ministry of Education, Dr. Antonio, and the whole crew to continue to do this. Salute to Claire Brown and his vision in this regard, and all the best. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and you too as well.
Thank you so much. And we're going to talk Sargassum with a marine ecologist next.
Yes, so he can access Risa Nelson.
Yes, he
her
can. Yes, he
research.
can. Indeed, indeed.
Yes.
So he can use that. And he's a scientist, so he loved that kind of thing. So
Yes,
yes, looking
yes.
forward to
So
that.
it's expanding so the weight is not on him alone. He's
Exactly.
creating that culture, that community of practice. So he has
Amen.
others like-minded.
So we're not making decisions in the dark. Anyway, thanks
Yes.
so much, Shirley Galloway. All
Thank
the
you,
best.
Mr. Ward. Yes.
You're welcome. So there we are. I don't mind people calling me Daren. That's my name. I when they say Mr. Ward, I feel, I feel a hoe. I feel maybe a little older than I am. Anyway, tell you what, let's share a couple of messages from our kind sponsors and partners here at Twin Island Media. And when we come back, we ought to be joined by Mr. Julio Camacho.
Are you ready to paint? Casada Paints and Supplies Inc. is the perfect place to start. We are the official distributors of Sherwin-Williams Paints. Sherwin-Williams, with over 150 years of innovation and experience, offers more than 1,500 paint colors to choose from. Our color palettes are handpicked by professional designers, making it easy to coordinate colors throughout your home or business. Visit us on the Utility Drive, Casada Gardens, or call 562-9450. All you have to do is visit or call Casada Paints.
Every home starts with a plan and a solid foundation. With Community First Foundation Savings Account, you can save for down payments, closing costs, and major home repairs one step at a time. Designed for first-time buyers and homeowners alike, this account encourages disciplined saving with a simple start and 12-month savings period that keeps your goals on track. Build smarter, save stronger with a foundation savings only at Community First Cooperative Credit Union, because strong homes start with strong foundations.
Yes, it's now 8:34 in Antigua and Barbuda, 26 minutes to 9 o'clock. Daren Matthew Ward in your company. And this is Twin Island Media Live for this 14th day of May 2026. And we are joined now online by Rulio Camacho. He's a marine ecologist, and it's that time of year when we're seeing our shorelines invaded by the infamous sargassum seaweed and all the foul implications of that, literally foul implications. Those of us who live near to the sea know exactly what I'm talking about. Once it creeps up shore or onshore, of course, it dies and decays, and the odor that comes from that is just absolutely horrible. Anyway, Rulio Camacho is joining us in the virtual space, and I want to say good morning, oh Lord,
Good
night.
morning. Good night, Daren. How are you doing?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what happened just now. I seem to have been knocked off, but I'm back. Rulio Camacho is in the virtual space. I see he's still there. I don't seem as though I'm the only one who got knocked off.
I have a theory, and it's because you said good morning and not good night.
Anyway, how are you doing, bro? What have you been up to?
But it's well. First, let me say my manners first. Good night to you, and good night to all your listeners, and hope all is well with everyone. I don't like how you always bring me on here to talk about these not so pleasant things, but we'll have ways of rectifying that in the future.
Indeed.
But yeah, it's
A good drink, maybe.
Yeah, something like that. I'm good. Taking on some new challenges in life, and so trying to take those on head on as much as I can, and then still trying to do the good work that y'all push me to do. So yeah, doing
All
this.
right. Well, and we're thankful that on behalf of a grateful nation, we express sincere thanks, sir. Now, for those who are unfamiliar with, I can't imagine there's anyone who's unfamiliar with sargassum, but they might still have questions as to what it is, where it comes from, why does it smell so bad, etc. Just give us a one-on-one, some basics, sargassum
Okay.
basics.
All right. So basics of sargassum. Sargassum is a plant, right? It's what we call an algae, and it's not something that's being ripped up from the bottom of the ocean. It actually grows on the surface, right? And so if you ever look at sargassum, you see these little almost air nodules. It's like little grapes or something like that. If you squeeze them, like they pop in your hand.
Correct.
Right? So that's what allows them to float at the surface. And sargassum, I've heard persons call it like an invasive species or something like that. It really isn't an invasive species. Sargassum is native to the Atlantic region. As you can see in the photo that you guys have, it really just grows on the surface. And there's an area to the north of Bermuda area that they call the Sargasso Sea. And that's where sargassum has been traditionally known. What we have is as we get into the conversation, we'll get more into that. But again, sargassum, what I want to also put here is sargassum floats on the surface. And in the ocean, on a regular basis, it is considered a net positive. because it provides habitat, it absorbs carbon dioxide because it's a plant. So while it's in the ocean and floating, it's actually considered a net positive. It's when it starts to interact with shorelines, it becomes there's a negative factor that comes forward. So it's really this two-faced aspect, and it really depends on how you think about it, how you talk about it, what face you're looking at.
Well, as far as we're concerned, the image on the screen, this is what we see.
Yes.
And on
Well,
my way
this
to work,
is what some of you see, because Daren, I know you go underwater, so I know you see other things too. So don't pretend like you only see this image.
Well,
but
yes,
this is the one that bothers us mostly, and yes,
that's
I
correct.
agree with that.
That's correct. That is the one that bothers us the most.
Right.
And so we see this, and of course, it has nowhere to go. So once it hits the shore, it essentially it dies and it decays. That's what happens, right?
Yes. So
Okay.
essentially, like any other thing, as the plant is drifting across, as this plant is drifting in the ocean, it wants constant moving water that brings fresh nutrients, etc. to it, and it's producing oxygen, it's absorbing carbon dioxide. When it starts to butt up against the coastline, it doesn't have the fresh moving water, and at that point, it moves from producing oxygen to producing carbon dioxide. So it moves from being living, it starts to die, it starts to decay. And as it starts to decay, that's when the issues happen, right? So that's when we get from being this potentially positive thing to this thing that we go, hey, what are we doing about this? Because many things can happen. You talk about the smell, right? There's this very sulfur, rotten egg kind of smell that's associated with it. Anybody who lives close to where sargassum come in will tell you that their electronics get impacted by it. People who have respiratory issues can get impacted by it. I know in the past there have been some things looking at what kind of chemicals it may have absorbed over time, and then because it's dying along our shores, what that could release. It's also because it's no longer producing oxygen but absorbing oxygen, it's pulling oxygen from the water, right? And as it pulls oxygen from the water, it causes major issues. And then you see something like a fish kill, or even that image that you had up not too long ago. It got some crowds out shallow areas. I don't know if you remember, I want to say it was 2022, 2023. There's a whole bunch of sargassum that was coming in, particularly on the north side by Jabwalk, etc. And people were reporting like eels that were dying and washing up on the shore and all the dead fish, etc. Because as it passes over shallow areas and it's pulling the oxygen from the water, these animals actually start to suffocate. So it can have far-reaching implications both on a human scale as well as a biological scale. And then that's just one aspect. And then you have the whole economic scale that it also has far-reaching implications on that. There's a whole other part of it.
Right. That was actually my next question. What are the main ecological, well, you've touched on some of them, but the economic consequences of heavy sargassum influx for marine life, which you've touched just now, tourism, fishing, and coastal communities, which we do have a number of coastal communities.
We're predominantly a coastal island, if you think
that's
about
right.
it. We're never more than really 20 minutes away from the coast,
Correct.
Where you are. So let's start with me. So, and this is just to kind of take persons through the history. We started seeing the sargassum issue as we know it in 2011. It wasn't the first time we've seen sargassum, but the issue that we've seen started in 2011. And not weirdly, but in the first couple of years, so 2011, 2012, we didn't have it in 2013, and then 2014, 2015. Those first couple of years, from an ecological point, from a fishing perspective, a lot of people were very happy because these are creating these rafts of floating biological areas as they're coming across. They were impacting the land somewhat, but fishermen were saying they were getting increased catch around the sargassum because the sargassum creates this area. The small things that are living in the sargassum, then you have the fish this size that are feeding on the small things, and you have the fish that big that are feeding on those smaller fish, and you have bigger fish. You understand? And so people were going and catching the mahis and the tunas and everything around it.
Right.
And I remember a fishing tournament in 2012. People were getting mahi and everything. Everybody was looking for sargassum to go and fish around the sargassum. It was great. But all good things don't last. So over time we have seen so much now. Right? We've seen so much sargassum that from a fishing perspective, and I'm not what I'm trying to do is talk about it from different aspects, right? So from a
Yes.
fishing perspective, most fishermen will tell you it's now such a hindrance that it actually prevents them from being able to fish properly, which means that they're not only not being able to address a vital aspect of our food security, but it's also affecting their economic livelihood because they can't go to the grounds and work the fishing areas the way they normally, because there's so much sargassum fouling their baits, affecting their boats, etc., that it can become an issue, right? So that's one perspective. The other perspective from in terms of that is when you have these large rafts over your shallow areas, your reefs, your seagrass beds, and you have these oxygen depletion aspects happening, it actually reduces the biodiversity in the area, right? So we're seeing so much now that the net positive that was seen initially from a fishing perspective isn't being observed anymore. That's not being seen. So that's fishing and biology. Health wise, there's a lot of research. There has been a lot of research, and there's continues to be research in terms of trying to understand what are the implications, because nobody's going out there and taking a bunch of sargassum and eating it. At least not that I know of. Not that I know of. I shouldn't say nobody. Not that I know of. Right.
It's not poisonous. It's not
It's
poisonous.
not. So this is the thing. It is not poisonous. I don't know of anyone who uses sargassum as a food source. Some algae use as food sources, right?
Okay.
If you like sushi, a lot of times you get sushi wrapped up in some kind of seaweed or something like that. There's algae in different aspects that use as food source. I don't know of any use of sargassum as food source, but because it's drifting so far and because it's taking up whatever's in the water, and we know that we're polluting our oceans. So there is a risk that it is taking up something that as it dies and decomposes, it's then releasing it in our proximity. And that can have health issues, right? So that's one of the things that's being, it's essentially, Dr. Linroy Christian would call it, it's called persistent organic pollutants, right? And so things that remain in the biological system, they can be taken in and out, but they tend to remain in the system. And so that's one of the concerns I know that has been raised about it, particularly when we get to the part of the conversation, people talk about how they're using sargassum, like some people make soaps and different things with it, and how are you ensuring that you're removing anything particularly harmful. And then there's a whole other aspect of we're a tourism society, right? We love our beaches, our hotels depend on our beaches, us as local folk depend on beaches and everything. Everybody likes to go to the beach.
Correct.
If you have a beach that's full of sargassum, I don't know if you've ever actually waded through sargassum. I've had to wade through sargassum.
It's not a fun experience.
It's not a fun experience, but it's very uncomfortable, right? So you have an aesthetic value that you lose because nobody wants a beach that's full of sargassum.
Correct.
Right? You have an impact on the immediate business, whether it's a hotel or something else, because there's a smell. Because again, remember, there are things, this is a biological material, and there are things living in it. So you wouldn't want somebody to be dumping biological waste upwind from where you live because you can smell it, right?
That's right.
Same way as sargassum degrades, the things in it will start to die, the low oxygen, etc. And you have stuff that, and they have this smell that comes, this sulfur smell.
It's a problem.
And nobody wants a sulfur smell, right? Nobody wants that. So then that creates
highly offensive.
It is highly offensive. And what does offend me is sometimes you're not even close to the coast, but if the wind blows in a certain way and certain areas have a lot of sargassum, you could be at midway and you're still smelling the sargassum. You're just like, but I can't even see it, but I smell it, right?
Yeah.
And so you get that aspect also. And that can have various implications. And so a lot of time, if your industries, they'll try and move it. So hotels will try and move it. I know sometimes hotels have to close. It affects beach vendors. And the problem is that we're getting more and more sargassum over time, over the years. So when we first started seeing sargassum in 2011, we saw it for maybe about 4 or 5 months. And then it came to the point where it was kind of expected. You kind of get it, maybe December, January-ish, and it eases up by September.
Right.
Now it seems to be almost 9 to 10 months they've seen sargassum. So you don't get a break. You don't get the opportunity to have a time without it nearly as much as before. This year is looking like it's going to be one of those record years. And so it's one of those things where it has high implications from that perspective, from how it affects livelihoods, how it affects mental health and well-being. Persons have said to me, they want to go to Half Moon Bay, but they can't. It's just that. It's just that.
Yeah.
And then if you have a lot of sargassum on the beach, and then you have like a swell event or something, you can have coastal erosion that's happening because of it. But the sargassum weighs down on one part of the sand, and then the water actually washes out the sand from on it, so it can affect your beach infrastructure also.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So if sometimes you get mats of sargassum hanging on the air, and then let's say you get a heavy wave event, or maybe a little tropical storm, not quite tropical storm, a wave or something coming through,
Right.
and you have breaking waves. Because of the weight of sargassum on the sand, it is compacting the sand to some extent. So that area is going to behave differently than how the beach would normally behave. And so you can actually have changes in how the beach dynamics and the beach flow, and lead to coastal erosion that way.
That is very interesting. And unfortunate, of course, because there are all kinds of implications for that. And as if we don't have enough to worry about as far as our coastal area regions are concerned, like coral bleaching, which is something I know you pay particular attention to, and sea warming generally, and sea rise, and all the rest of it. No, there was a slide that you shared with me, an image that you shared with me. I don't know if the technical director can just put that up. It looks as though it's a satellite image of the Atlantic. Let's see, technical director, if you can pull that up. But just give what are the predictions for 2026? What should we expect? We're already seeing mass
amounts. You're already seeing mass amounts
of saga. We're seeing that. What is the prediction? Here we are. Tell us what we're looking at here.
Okay, so what you're looking at is a satellite rendition, right? And it's looking backwards. So what it's doing, it's looking at these areas, these different regions, so the Eastern Atlantic, Western Atlantic, Eastern Caribbean, etc.
Right.
And then it's using a special type of lens to pick up photosynthetic materials. So remember, sargassum is a plant, and it's at the surface. And so essentially, the closer to red is the greater the concentrations of sargassum in that area average over the month, in this case of April 2026.
I see.
Right? So this is not to say that there's remember, this is very, if you can just barely see the outline of Antigua, right? So think about scale, right? So small sargassum, an individual piece of sargassum is. So what this is looking at, this kind of gives you an idea of where we're seeing sargassum, and where the heavier concentrations are, right? And so what you want, if it's going to be, if I was going to tell you that we're getting close to the end, you'd want the Eastern Atlantic and the Western Atlantic, so region 5 and region 4, so the places most to your right-hand side, I think, if you're looking at it.
Right.
You'd want those to have as least amount of sargassum as possible, because the currents move from east to west. Sargassum can't swim; they just drift
to the current,
the predominant currents,
right?
And so they move from east to west. So you want the areas to your east to have less sargassum, which means that you're going to have a reduction in sargassum.
Right.
What this is telling us, if you look at especially number 4,
yes.
If you look at number 4,
yes, sir,
that red,
yes,
very close to us, but it's to the east of us. So more than likely,
southeast,
we have a rough couple months. Yeah, but remember, it's currents also deflect off the South American coast. So things aren't going directly east to west. They have a slightly northward movement as they're coming along. And so more than likely, we're going to see increasing amounts of sargassum over the next couple months based on what the satellite imagery are. And this is what I want to throw out as a caveat here, or several caveats. Sargassum tracking is still not an exact science, because the ocean behaves in unpredictable ways depending on what's happening. And then particularly when you get close to land masses, things like depth, bathymetry, what's on the bottom, what's happening, how, if the area has coves, bays, or if it's just a flat surface, all of these impact how the currents behave around the land masses. So
Right.
it doesn't try and predict what's going to land.
Mm-hmm.
It tries and predicts what's in the ocean about
Yes.
a mile to 2 miles away from the coastal areas, right? So
Gotcha.
the caveat here is to understand this is just giving us an idea of what's in the area. Now, if the currents go as we expect them, we're likely to see more, right? But this aspect of trying to understand and predict sargassum movement is where a lot of, from my perspective, I see a lot of folks trying to get a better understanding of it. Because what people want is a forecast. People want to know, hey, they want an early warning system, right? They want a cap for sargassum. That's what they want.
Yeah.
They want something to be like, hey, next week, these 3 beaches are going to be inundated on Monday. And so you can either get your mitigation measures in place, you can get your removal factors in place, or, hey, let's avoid this beach from Monday to that day, right? That's what people want. It is a
Right.
very hard thing to do because there's so many different factors that affect this, especially as it gets closer, right?
Yeah.
There's even now, and I think I may have shared this with you. The NOAA has recently launched something that's essentially they give a daily update of what the inundation risk to different areas are, right?
Right.
And it every day they update it with the best available data that they have in terms of they take what the satellite imagery is showing, what the known currents are doing, and what's the likelihood of you having
Right.
something impacting your area, right? But there's a lot of science going on about how do you try and predict that. Because again, let's say a hotel like St. James Hotel, which we know gets affected no more, etc.,
Correct.
gets impacted. You can see how it'd be beneficial to them if they can be like, hey, I know that I need to have my teams on the ground these 3 days, but then these 3 days I'm not going to. Or hey, for the next 3 weeks, it's going to be really bad. So I'm going to put my resources and move my guests over to Veranda. But it's only for 3 weeks, and I can tell a guest who's calling me, hey, how bad the sargassum? Hey, it's going to be bad for the next 2 weeks. But after that is a perfect time for you to come. So that kind of prediction information is really where a lot of research, from at least from my perspective, I see a lot of research going into trying to understand that. And part of the reason we just don't have the data. We don't know enough, and this is what science is, right? But we don't know enough yet to make really accurate conversation. If you think predicting things are easy, how long have we been trying to track hurricanes and they still throw us doozies every so often, right?
They
Just speak to the
certainly
Met
do.
Office about that. I'm just saying, it's don't feel like
Yeah.
if we should be able to do this because we still struggle sometimes with our hurricanes and rainfall
Yes.
and all that. So let's just
Correct.
give
The
science
weatherman,
its time
the
to work.
weatherman gets it wrong often enough.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
certainly
but
does.
it's and they keep trying to improve their methodologies, but things
Yeah.
don't always work the way they think they're gonna work.
So, what do we do? I mean, are there any best practice examples around the world of how best to deal with sargassum? Is there economic opportunities? I mean, I think in our previous interview, we had a discussion about a presentation that was done on the research that was carried out on, sargassum being an economic opportunity. I think I have on my dresser somewhere perfume oil, a cologne oil, men don't wear perfume, right? That's made from that's made from sargassum. So
Right.
and I paid for that. It wasn't free. So, I mean, what economic opportunities are you seeing? Is there any example that you can say, hey, the Norwegians use it for this? I think there's some conversation about that. Just tell us, is there hope around the corner is what I'm asking.
So there is hope because and a lot of persons in the marine field view sargassum as easily $1 billion or $1 trillion industry.
Right.
Because you're getting millions of metric tons of raw material that everybody wants to get rid of. The thing we haven't quite figured out how to deal with it on a mass scale. There are a lot of innovative solutions out there. There are people who are looking at, from simple stuff as you say, perfumes, colognes, people who are doing soap. I know in Mexico they were trying to compress it to create cheaper building material. Some people have looked at it from fertilizer, some people have, there are different ways. But the problem that I see in a lot of these methodologies isn't that they're bad, it's that they're not large enough.
In terms of scale.
in terms of scale.
Okay.
So when you're okay, so right now, in all that same satellite imagery that you had up, so for the month of April, the
Right.
average estimated amount tons of sargassum in the Caribbean / Atlantic region
Yeah.
was 28.7 million tons.
That's a lot of sargassum.
28.7 million tons of sargassum. So this is where I say the idea of scale comes in. If we can find a way to utilize this raw material at scale, like if it was oil, it'd be gone. Let's just put it this way.
Especially right now, right?
Listen, if it's if it's oil, it'd be gone. Let's just leave it as that.
Yeah. Understood.
But the point is that I'm a scientist, and we're looking at research and what's up. But this is where innovative thinkers. So there is hope, because for me, how I look at it is we in the Caribbean need to try and see if we can figure out a way to make sargassum work for us, because we've suffered. We were the first to suffer, and we've suffered the most from it. Right? So we need to figure out a way to make sargassum work for us. There has been experiments, and what I'll say is sometimes I don't feel like if there is enough effort being put into trying to address that question, because I don't know if it's impacting, I'm trying to say this politically correct, the right pockets in the way that it needs to impact the right pockets. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes.
But
You're
essentially,
employing the tact. You're using you're being tactful and diplomatic.
I am trying to be tactful. But it's essentially it's a mega industry waiting to be opened, right? But we haven't been able to. People talk about different ways. There's I know in Barbados they actually try to use it as fuel.
Yes.
I think,
but some kind of biofuel.
Yes, right. But I think they were able to get like one vehicle to do something with it, and they had it as a demonstration. But that hasn't taken off, right? And this is the thing. We talk about, there's a lot of conversation about sustainability and how do we do renewable energy and renewable resources and so on. Here's this thing that's being thrown at us, and I don't think, and this is me being very candid, I don't think we're actually throwing enough work behind trying to understand not just how to mitigate it, how to use it.
Have you been called by the Prime Minister or Cabinet to say, come make a presentation to us as to the impact of this, considering the significant economic impact it's having on our fisher folk and the fishing industry generally and the hotel industry? Have you?
I haven't been called directly by Cabinet or anything like that. I've had conversations with one or two ministers, and I've had conversations with various heads of departments, etc. Because sargassum kind of fell into my lap when it started to show. Okay. So from a biological perspective, I do quite.
This is why we call you.
Well, unfortunately.
Yeah, this is why we call you.
But but it's one of these things, and what I want to also point out here, right, is that sargassum is an issue that is heavily being targeted or pointed at one of the byproducts of this whole climate change aspect that we deal with. Right. Because the mechanisms that's leading to us having sargassum can be traced back to how rapidly we're causing changes to our climatic factors. Right? And so the worry then becomes of how do we then ensure that we get the benefits that we need, right? As far as I'm concerned, somebody in Antigua, some bright person with an innovative mind needs to come up with somewhere where, we buy sargassum from countries because we make so much money from the raw material and diversify our economy, right?
We might have to soon.
Well, if I'll put it this way, if I had that idea,
we'd
be having this conversation.
That's true.
I'd be sipping pina coladas in a pool somewhere, relaxing and making the money work.
That is correct. That is correct.
Right?
And I might be joining. That's really
what it is. Yeah. No, you get invited. Yeah. Don't worry about it. but so again, it's you have to think about it. It is linked to climate change. It's one of the issues where we face with also small island nations in the Caribbean are facing the things that that come up because of this climate change issue. It is something that if we can't find a way to recognize the benefits, it will once again be something that we have suffered from, but are not able to benefit from, right? And this is also one of my fears with Sargasso. There's a ton of raw material there. Whoever figures this question out is going to be the winner in this race. And if we, Caribbean, don't figure out this question, we have been suffering since 2011 from this thing.
We should benefit. We should be the ones
we
to
should benefit. We absolutely should benefit. But if we
Yeah.
can't figure it out, we're not going to benefit from it.
Yeah.
Right? And so this is why I say, is there hope? Yes, there's hope because we're having this conversation. There's hope because I hope that there's someone with an innovative spark is going to think about this question a little bit deeper and try and figure out how it is that we make this something valuable, right? The bad news is this year is looking like it's going to be probably one of the worst years that we've seen. It's already above the 75% percentile in terms of the years that we've predicted, that we've seen so far in terms of amounts. April has already broken a record. I know fishermen who will call me, and sometimes I remember a guy called me in January. He's like, "Hey, why is there so much sargassum out here already?" Like, you know,
as if you put it there.
Yeah. And this is the thing. I don't put it there, but then I guess I can't get a couple months to work these areas properly without having to deal with this. Right? And then the weather not great, sargassum everywhere. And guys like they don't want to do this. It just makes it and you have to think about that aspect also. It's how do you ensure that the persons who are suffering the most can then get health benefits? And the reason I'm saying that is because people need to think about it in that perspective also. It's a resource that's waiting to be utilized. You can do small things with it easy. I tell people all the time, you have giant African snails around your yard, take a little bit of sargassum, not large amounts, take a bucket full from the water, not when it's already done. Line it, the salt content, keep the snails out here. You don't need to have a big amount, just small amounts. The snails won't cross it. They won't cross it.
Right.
Simple say, I know of a farm in CV Farm who has done something similar. And he don't have the smell because he don't put down that much. But again, that's a small scale thing of how it to benefit us immediately. But that doesn't answer the larger scale question that we need to try and figure out. And that's where I think some of the issues come in.
All right, Julio. We just have to sigh, and I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not sure. Is there any relationship between sargassum and water temperature? Does it make the water cooler? Does it make the water? Has there been any study done to explore that particular connection? Because coral bleaching is something that I know you're very concerned with, and have been monitoring and studying. So, has there been any study along that line?
So you're asking some very interesting questions. So, is there any relationship between sea temperature and sargassum?
Yes.
So, biological activity happens fast in warm environment, and so one of the theories, and it's still being looked at, but essentially the area where we're seeing sargassum now is a little warmer than the Sargasso Sea, and they're predicting that's helping to fuel its growth. Right? There are other factors that are helping to fuel its growth, so there is that factor. However, and you mentioned this, so because I do study quite a bit of corals, etc., one of the things that we have noticed is that there's some areas that get shaded by sargassum, but don't get heavy blanket mats of sargassum, that some corals seem to be doing better. Because there's some level of potential shading and potential temperature alleviation that they may be getting from it. Right?
That's what I was wondering.
Right. So on a large scale, that is something interesting to watch. But, and this is, again, I have to say some bad news before the good news. So I don't know if you've heard, we've been predicted to have a super El Nino in the latter half of this year, the second 6 months and into 2027. Right. 2026. Are we in 2026? We're in 2027. Yeah, it's time. So we're predicted to be in a super El Nino. And normally, the year after super El Nino is warm. Sea temperatures. So we had if you remember, 2023, 2024 bleaching was particularly bad, and we had El Nino in 2022 going into 2023. Right? And so it's one of the concerns that we have, but it's now creating an opportunity where, knowing that the areas that tend to get covered to some extent by sargassum, and so covered but not stagnated. So sargassum dies once it stagnates.
Right.
But if you have high energy environments, it doesn't get to stagnate. So while it cuts up, it doesn't create as much of the negative factors. And so one of the things that I'm planning to try and do is actually see if I can monitor temperature differences between areas that are impacted versus not impacted, and see if I can actually pick up the influence of sargassum on these areas, right? Because that could be actually a way of alleviating, not a way of actively, I'm not going to take a mat of sargassum and put it over a reef. Or maybe I am, I don't know. Maybe that's where the research can go. You have to kind of wait and see. So from that aspect, yeah. The other thing, and I hate to say this, I really hate to say this, but the other aspect that helps to alleviate sargassum are storms. Because storms reduce stagnation. Storms stir the water. Storms are one of nature's ways of cleaning, right? And so if you have, Memorbe. So Memorbe is for me. So somewhere like Memorbe or somewhere like Jabberwock, if it's heavily inundated with sargassum, and you have like a tropical wave or something pass through, you have 20, 25 knot winds and some rolling seas, etc. That breaks up all that sargassum and adds fresh energy movement into the environment, which essentially stops any kind of oxygen depletion, etc. So storms actually help you to deal with the coastal impacts of sargassum, right? Pulls it away from the coastline. Once sargassum starts to decay, it actually sinks. So storms are helpful with that. No, just for John public to be aware, I'm not wishing for hurricanes. I don't want anybody to leave here, and I don't want tomorrow to hear somebody say, Rui, come on and say, we need hurricanes to deal with sargassum. But it's just acknowledged. It's just like how storms help to alleviate high sea temperatures, because if you have a cup of tea and you want to cool down your tea, you stir it, and storms essentially stir in your water.
Or blow on it.
Yeah, exactly. So the same thing. A storm is just a big, is just a big cup. It's just a big spoon that's coming to stir the ocean, right? And that can be helpful. So in the same way, it can actually alleviate some sargassum issues.
Right.
But nobody wants to wish for that.
Nobody wants to wish for that.
We can't. We can, just like how we can't control sargassum right now, we can't control storms, and storms have major storms can have so much negative impacts that you kind of have to figure out where you want to go with this.
Yeah, completely understand. Rulio, listen, thanks so much for your time tonight. At least we've turned some attention on the sargassum issue, and we'll continue to watch the space. I look forward. You publish a newsletter, right? You still publish a newsletter?
Yeah. I was lagging a little bit. I will admit that's probably why you haven't seen it for a little bit. But I'm putting together some data to put up another one soon. So I'll make sure that you're on the email thread, and then feel free to publicly share it.
I certainly will, for the benefit of those who are so affected. Well, for the benefit of all of us, because I think we're pretty much all affected in one way.
I think we are.
Somebody's going to smell it. Somebody's going to want to go to the beach and have to make a change because of sargassum. A fisherman is going to be affected, and many fishermen are going to be affected, which means that I can get less old wife and less snapper and less mahi and whatever else because they don't want to go out. So we're all affected in some way.
Exactly. We all are.
All right, Rulio, listen, it's great. Thank you so much. Much appreciated. National treasure. Thank you for the work that you do in the world of marine ecology, considering that we are surrounded by water. We're only 108 square miles. So there you are.
That's right.
Thanks a lot, Rulio.
Okay, thanks for having me, Daren.
Blessings. Night. All right, so there we have it. Rulio Camacho, marine ecologist, speaking about the impact of sargassum. And I don't know where to begin with that. But there are a couple of issues. There are a couple of things that I wanted us to flesh out or to talk about tonight on the Twin Island Live. It's already 14 minutes after 9 o'clock. Both of those interviews actually went a little longer than I thought. So I'm wondering, let's share a couple of quick messages from our partners. And when we come back, I'm just going to touch on a couple of issues. One of the local issues that caught my attention is that Cabinet has approved a national safe haven for women and children. I like that. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And APUA is in the news. I'm not talking about the power outage that happened yesterday. I mean, these things happen from time to time. But I'm talking about the conversation about pipes and, of course, the increase in our fuel variation charge, which means our May utility bill is going to be higher. And I'm just wondering if that's a harbinger of things to come. But we'll see. We'll share a couple of quick messages, and Tariq should be joining me, hopefully. He still has some courage to join me and wax lyrical on some of these issues. And of course, we're going to talk about what's happening on the regional and the international scene after this.
Are you ready to paint? Casada Paints and Supplies Inc. is the perfect place to start. We are the official distributors of Sherwin-Williams Paints. Sherwin-Williams, with over 150 years of innovation and experience, offers more than 1,500 paint colors to choose from. Our color palettes are handpicked by professional designers, making it easy to coordinate colors throughout your home or business. Visit us on the Utility Drive, Casada Gardens, or call 562-9450. All you have to do is visit or call Casada Paints.
Every home starts with a plan and a solid foundation. With Community First Foundation Savings Account, you can save for down payments, closing costs, and major home repairs one step at a time. Designed for first-time buyers and homeowners alike, this account encourages disciplined saving with a simple start and 12-month savings period that keeps your goals on track. Build smarter, save stronger with a foundation savings only at Community First Cooperative Credit Union, because strong homes start with strong foundations.
All right, we are in the last 10 minutes or so about Twin Island Media Live tonight for this Thursday, I almost said Wednesday, Thursday, the 14th day of May, 2026. Daren Matthew Ward in your company, or DMW for short. A lot of people now are calling me DMW. Daren Matthew Ward is a bit lengthy. So we had we had a discussion earlier this evening on the research symposium that's taken place. We're going to publish the information on our Facebook page so that you can be a part of the conversation come next week, Wednesday. Kadeem Joseph is going to be the host for that. And so we'll do that. And then we spoke to Julia Camacho about the stinky sargassum seaweed that is inundating our shores. One of the areas, Tariq, you're with me. Let's see, Tariq is supposed to be joining me to keep my company, so I don't feel like I'm talking to myself. But the government of Antigua and Barbuda has approved the establishment of a national safe haven for women and children in need of care and protection, in what officials describe as a major advancement in the country's response to child protection and gender-based violence. The initiative, which will be spearheaded by the Ministry of Social and Urban Transformation, aims to create a dedicated trauma-informed facility designed to provide emergency shelter, therapeutic services, family strengthening programs, and structured reintegration support for vulnerable women and children. I think that this is a very bold and a progressive step. Just to make a mention, a very special mention, one of the major commitments comes from Team Antigua Island Girls, who would, of course, I think that was their cause, to raise funds for, building a home for women and girls, or women and children that are in vulnerable situations, particularly abusive situations. And so they have pledged $350,000 toward construction and capital development after several years of fundraising efforts dedicated to the national project. And to bolster the initiative, Cabinet approved government capital investment of $500,000 to assist with land identification, site preparation, regulatory approvals, and initial construction works. That piece is from Antigua.news. Shout out to my colleagues there. Tariq, I think that's a good idea.
That's impressive. That's impressive.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
I'm not radio, so I have to remove that, but that's impressive.
Oh yes. The bottom third, that's what you call it?
The lower third.
The lower third. All right.
I'm learning like you too, don't worry.
Yeah, so that's a good initiative. The concern I always have with these things is that we seem to be good at starting and building a building, having a great groundbreaking or opening ceremony, and there's a lot of pizzazz. But in terms of maintaining and sustaining, that's where I think we fall off.
And implementation. Like, I think we even have wonderful institutions that we've never actually used them to the best of their ability from the jump. So I just worry about that, and I think that, like, at least right now, we need to start doing a little bit better. We can't be opening things and just spending the people money like that.
Right. So big up to the cabinet for that decision. Fully applaud them on that. Just hope that the follow through is going to be, as you said, the implementation is good or sound. Maximum use of or maximum efficient use of those limited resources, and that there's a plan in place to sustain it over time. But there are too many interviews I've had over the years about women who are in horrible situations, but they have nowhere to turn.
No place to go. No place.
So imagine going to work, or either going to work and know you're going home to an abusive situation, or living at home, and when he comes home, it's going to be a problem if his food isn't tasting right, or if it's. You'd be surprised, partner, the stories that I hear, and maybe you hear them too. Well, you're in the legal profession, so I don't know what you hear up there, but down here,
I wouldn't be surprised. I'll put it that way. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's certainly something, a concern. The other story that caught my attention on the local scene was APA was in the news. On one hand, APA is warning, and this also is from Antigua.news, by the way. APA is warning that rising global fuel prices are now having a direct impact on electricity costs in Antigua and Barbuda, with consumers seeing a significant increase in the fuel variation charge. That's according to Annazette Reynolds. So the fuel variation has increased from 55 cents to 70 cents per kilowatt hour. So that's a 30% increase. And we have, probably a combination of Putin and his actions in Ukraine and the impact on that. and more recently, the decision on the part of Mr. Putin's friend, Mr. Trump, assassinated the Ayatollah Khamenei, thinking that okay, that would solve all the world's problems. But
I'm still trying to find out why we've done this, why we've done either. I don't think that Vladimir Putin really needed to go into Ukraine. I think that he's only made his country weaker by doing so. And in the same way, I feel like Donald Trump did the same thing in terms of supporting the decision to go into Iran. And things have become more expensive for everyone, not just the people in the United States. So it's just interesting, just interesting.
And the sad thing is that we can talk about it. We're talking heads, pundits, analysts, whatever you want to call us. But there's not a damn thing we can do about it, unfortunately. But it's really unfortunate because, as you said, we are paying for these decisions. And as you mentioned, Mr. Putin, for the first time in his 26, 7, 8, depending on who's counting, because he was also a mayor in St. Petersburg.
Mayor and prime minister as well.
And then he was prime minister, and then he was president. Then he took a break for 4 years because the constitution didn't allow him to have more than 2 consecutive terms. And Mr. What's his name? Dmitry Medvedev was the was president, but we knew who was really running the show. Putin was running the show.
Right.
And then he came back and basically is president for life because his opponents either end up shot dead in front of the Kremlin, or poisoned, or sent to a penal colony. And any number of outcomes there. But we know what happens when you're an opponent of Vladimir Putin. And of all his years in the presidency, I think this year is going to be a challenging one for him because all the noises coming out of Russia, people are now criticizing him openly, and the internet has been shut down, a number of restrictions, and the parade, the May Day parade in Red Square was scaled back significantly because
I realized that was the case. Yeah. Do you think that he's losing the support or perceived support of his people?
Well, okay. Polls in Russia, you have to add not a grain of salt, but plenty salt.
Yeah, that's rock salt. Right?
Yeah, rock salt. Barbuda salt too, probably. So polls in Russia are a joke. But for the fact that they are reporting that his poll numbers are now 60 odd, close to 50% or 50 high percent.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Whereas before it was 90 or almost 100.
In the 90s.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because there's no opposition there. That's a tell. There's stories that he's no longer going around the way he used to. And to counter that, he went to pick up his school teacher the other day. Poor old lady had to, be a part of a show, kissing him up and so on. I watched the videos and I just smiled. I said, of all the times you're doing this, you decided to do it. You know that the stories are that you're afraid to come out in public.
Yes, it was the marketing.
Here's the marketing. So he comes up in his Urus SUV. Urus is the official car of
Russia.
Putin. Well, they got rid of their Mercedes, or at least publicly got rid of their Mercedes and Audis and whatnot. And Urus is apparently the Russian brand. And so they have, any limousine you see him in, it's an Urus, which is a Russian-built vehicle. So he pulled up in his Urus, had this lovely bouquet of flowers, and the teachers there kissing him up. I wonder how willing she was to do that, Maybe she was. Teachers tend to love their students.
That's what I think. And also, if your student became the president, no matter if he was the worst student in the world, you're still proud of them,
That is true. Hopefully she wasn't thinking she doesn't end up getting tossed out of a window like some of these.
That might have been a little bit of the motive, but I think she would be okay either way,
Yeah. So there's that. So he's I think at any point in time in his presidency, this is probably where he's most vulnerable. And let's face it, he's not a young man. He's getting older, and the older you get, obviously, the less tight a grip you have on things, and power is no different. So maybe folks are just. I think he's in trouble. Basically, is what I'm saying. And a number of intelligence reports, and I don't know. Sometimes the Western press has a way of course, doing this deliberately to try and. So I take that into account. But the fact that he has shut down the internet and shut down Telegram, which is something that his people used to use, it's a certain level of paranoia that tells me all is not well in the Kremlin. So we'll see what happens with Putin. We'll watch this. I'm certainly watching this space. Most people in Antigua know that I've been following Putin for a long time. And so I would not be shocked if one morning I wake up and I realize Mr. Putin is either no more or he's out of power. He's been deposed by whether it be Sergei Shoigu, his former defense head, who was sidelined and I am told has a grudge. Always good to have somebody with a grudge. He has a reason to fight, right? So we'll see what happens.
He's gone next week.
Well, he's still around. I think he's in charge of the security something. He's not. He basically was removed from defense secretary and in charge of the Ukraine war to being the head of the security apparatus. I can't remember the exact title. So he's not, he hasn't been set aside into oblivion. He still has a very powerful role in Russia. So, and that's why people say Putin has something to fear. One other issue, something that caught my attention, Keir Starmer. What's going on? Have you been paying attention to Sir Keir Starmer in England?
I haven't been paying as much attention to Mr. Starmer, but I did recognize that two of his cabinet members had resigned recently. And it almost seems as though there isn't as much support for Mr. Starmer as there used to be. However, he's still more popular than the next best person.
Who's that? Kemi Badenoch?
No, not the next best person in his party.
Oh, in his party. Okay.
Yes.
And
I that sound familiar?
Yes, it sounds somewhat familiar. Yes. But what the startling thing is that he came in with such a massive majority.
He really did.
So what did he do to mess that up? He just did not know how to perhaps use power.
So there are people who know how to flex and there are people who don't. I think that, so I'll speak New York City. Zoran Mamdani, very impressive the way that he has governed, the way that he has publicly shown what he's doing and what he wants to do in the city of New York. When there was a budget crisis, he said there was a budget crisis. He said exactly how they plan on fixing the budget crisis. They ended up fixing the budget crisis. And he now has lived up to the majority of his promises. Albeit there were a couple of things that he said that he was going to do, such as the buses. However, I don't think that the people the British don't feel the same way. They just don't. They don't feel the same way for Keir Starmer. I don't think he's delivered the sort of change, the sort of progress that they expected. I don't think he's delivered the sort of when they turned away from who's that? That wasn't Mr. Sunak. Yes, when they turned away
Rishi
from
Sunak.
Yes, when they turned away from Rishi Sunak, it was a rejection almost of the way the country was going at that point in time. They wanted that's not who they wanted to be as the British.
That's right.
Right. So I don't know. I don't know where he is at this point. I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know if this is just a bump in the road. I sense it might be, but we'll see.
Well, BBC reporting here just a couple hours ago, Sir Keir Starmer is fighting to stay on as Prime Minister as he stares down calls from Labour critics for him to leave Downing Street. On Thursday, Wes Streeting resigned from the cabinet, leaving his post as Health Secretary, although he stopped short of launching a leadership bid himself. Earlier in the week, 4 members of the government, including the Health Minister Streeting, Ali Zubair Ahmed, resigned, while scores of Labour MPs are calling for Sir Keir to quit following a disastrous set of elections for the party last week. All right, so it's problematic, but it hasn't reached a tipping point yet. The question would be if it does reach a tipping point, but he says he's holding on for now. Kemi Badenoch, though, the conservative leader of course, the opposing party, which was tossed out not that long ago. You just made reference to them under the leadership of Rishi Sunak. She is smelling blood in the water, and I must say, she's quite seems to be quite. She's soaking this all up. She really dug it into Keir Starmer and the Labour Party earlier today. And as a matter of fact, I was supposed to send you the video clip so we could share it. Huh?
Earlier today?
It was earlier today. She tore into Richie, tore into Sir Keir.
Yeah.
And so basically saying that he's incompetent. And she went through a list of things. And you could tell she was prepared. She smells blood in the water.
Yes, she does.
And
she has for a while.
She has for, yes. The only thing I wonder is Britain ready for not just another woman, but a black woman?
I don't think that they are ready for her.
Yeah. You don't think so?
I am concerned that she is doing the job that the leader of the opposition should be doing. She really is sticking it to the prime minister and his cabinet, as well as advocating for Britain. I don't necessarily appreciate all of her advocacy. I think some of it is kind of weird, but cool.
She's a creature of her party.
So, I mean,
she's a creature of her party.
Okay.
Let's just say she's a creature of her party.
She is espousing the platform of her party. All right.
That's right.
And realistically speaking, like I think that she has the ability to. I just don't know if they're going to give her give her the time. I don't know.
Right. Well, we'll certainly wait and see. Bahamas had elections day before yesterday, Tuesday.
Yeah.
And very similar result where the ruling party won a number of seats. We're actually going to have someone from the Bahamas join us.
Okay.
Once the final results are made official, because I think they're still doing some reviews and recounts and so on, from what I gather.
Okay.
So he didn't feel comfortable getting into it too much until the numbers were final and certified by the Electoral Commission over there. So it's likely that next week when we have a live, Tyrone Fitzgerald, that's his name, a friend of mine over there in the Bahamas, so he will join us to talk to us about the lay of the land in Bahamas. But the turnout was very similar to here, as was the case in Barbados. So in Barbados's case, in our case, and in Bahamas's case, you have low turnout, incumbents having convincing victories. What does that say? What does that say? So these are questions that I
want to tell the truth?
Tell me.
We're not doing badly. And so because we're not doing badly, comfortable, okay, no problem. Take a chance. Or the little bad treatment, that's okay.
Right.
No problem. When people start to actually get uncomfortable, then you start to see changes. And I think that right now the economies are such that people don't feel like they're doing badly. And I think or
they don't have confidence in the alternative. And now, because of all the uncertainty around the world, do we really want to create a seismic shift in our politics and our governance and our economy by changing to something that may not be proven, especially if the opposition, I was going to use an example, but I don't want to get in trouble, especially if the opposition doesn't appear to have it together. All right.
No, I hear that perspective. The trump card that most of the administrations have is the economy is doing well. If the economy was not doing well, I think that they'd all be in difficult positions, very difficult positions. I actually think that that's one of the reasons why the elections have been called in all of those countries. Because they did recognize that there was a chance that even with a disorganized opposition, that there would have been a loss of governance.
Right.
Which I'll leave it there.
I understand. You're being careful with, but I understand what you're saying.
At the moment, you know.
One other story that I'll share before we wrap. CIA Director John Ratcliffe met with counterparts from Cuba's Ministry of the Interior on Thursday during a high-level visit to the island amid complex bilateral relations between longtime adversaries. The CIA told Fox News correspondent David Spunt that Ratcliffe met Cuban officials including Rolito Rodriguez Castro, Ministry of the Interior, Lazaro Alvarez Casas, and the head of Cuban intelligence services in Havana to personally deliver President Trump's message that the United States is prepared to seriously engage in economic and security issues, but only if Cuba makes fundamental changes. So essentially, the United States has put the kibosh on Cuba, strangling its flow of oil, which is strangling its economy and its healthcare, and it's strangling the country in order to get what it wants. Any thoughts on that?
You get more flies with honey than with vinegar. You just do.
That's an interesting way of looking at it. But
the issue that you're having in Cuba is not similar to the relationships that you're having or the strange relationships that you're having everywhere else. Like the African continent, the entire South American continent, like everybody's breaking away. There's a reason why.
There's a reason why. Very interesting indeed. And I find it interesting that they could say, okay, the regime in Cuba is communist and is a dictatorship, and Maduro was a dictator and all the rest of it.
No problem.
While at the same time, you're giving Mr. Putin a free pass to pummel Ukraine. He's a dictator. And you're chumming up, palling around with Xi Jinping, who, some will argue, is a dictator. And he certainly doesn't tolerate opposition. There's no opposition. There's one party, the Communist Party in Cuba, in China, and that's their system. I respect their system. China's been doing great things. So please, my China supporters, don't come after me. I'm just saying, don't be hypocritical and criticize Cuba for being a dictatorship when you're palling around with dictators. Anyway, I don't know.
When we go after, I want to ask you a question. That being said, I do think that I do see that there's a little bit of a double standard, like a huge double standard. But look at Venezuela now. They haven't made any serious changes, but now the United States is selling their oil.
No. Correct. So it doesn't. Listen, the United States. It's not about the dictatorship or democracy or what. They don't care about that. I mean, history has shown us that. They went into the Congo many moons ago, did the horrible things to Patrice Lumumba, had him shot, killed, and dismembered and dumped in acid so his family couldn't properly bury him. Only the other day his gold tooth was handed back to his family. And they had Mobutu there for years and years. Taking full advantage, raping the people of the Congo economically, storing his money in Switzerland and so on. Now they're coming and talking to us about money laundering and all the rest of it. And, this is why I don't like these things, because my tongue gets loose and I say all kinds of things. That
Daren, it's okay to say, it's okay to call out the hypocrisy. It's okay, all right?
They're very hypocritical. So even now, they're showing their stripes. So it really wasn't about democracy or dictatorship. They wanted Maduro out because he was not allowing certain things. And perhaps he knew he wanted to go into Iran and it was going to be a problem. So therefore, open a new flow of oil that you can control out of Venezuela. I'm just putting, that's just me putting some pieces of puzzles
together.
That's correct. So there we are. But we can talk about these issues all night. So we've touched local. We've touched the other local issue that I wanted to talk about was APU and the pipe network. But maybe we'll talk about that another time. Maybe I'll get somebody from APU to come and tell me when are they going to finally fix the pipe? Because telling us that the pipes are 80 years old is telling us something that we know since 2014.
So I think so.
And before that,
hear me out, Daren.
Tell me.
We've known this has been an issue. We haven't done anything about the issue. The reason we haven't done anything about an issue is because the people who make decisions to do the things have not made those decisions yet. We know we need a full-scale project island-wide. We know we need larger pipes. We know we need to replace every single pipe in Antigua. All right, and we're trying. I see them trying. All right, but even what they have in some ways is a band-aid. All right, it's but you know, it's okay. We'll get there. We'll get there.
Well, they say they've raised some funny money to repair roads. My question is, are they going to deal with the pipe issue before they spend 100 million to repair the roads? Because if you're going to spend 100 million that you say you haven't touched yet to repair the roads, and then you dig up the same roads to fix the 80-year-old pipes, you're going to have a problem.
I don't think
you don't have to comment, Tariq.
I don't think we should have gotten a loan to pay for roads. I'll leave that alone. All right. I think I know. I'm sorry. Why doesn't Public Works fix the roads?
I don't know.
Daren, how much people work on Public Works?
Yeah, I know. That's a very good question. That's a very good question.
Okay, I'm done. I'm sorry. Yeah.
So we're both gonna go now before we get into more trouble. So Tariq, have a good night. So we've touched local, we've touched regional, we've touched international. And we're gonna leave it there. Of course, there are many other issues we could touch, but we'll keep it. We'll be disciplined and keep it there. And thanks so much, Tariq, for everything. And so, for ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who don't know, this fine gentleman is the person who has been helping us out with the technical and the new look that many people say they like to see. We'll get it refined as time goes by, and we'll get more people on board, so the burden can be shared, and we'll make things happen with Twin Island Media, trying to be as fair and balanced down the middle opportunity for everybody to have their say in an atmosphere of mutual respect, as I like to say. So have a good night, Tariq, and blessings to you and your family. And blessings to everyone who's been joining us tonight. It's an odd night. We normally don't come on a Thursday night, but those are the circumstances and the hand in which we were dealt this week. But I'm grateful for the conversations we had with both of our guests tonight. Of course. All right. So thanks a lot. Have a good night. And God be safe and God bless. Night, everybody.